LOL.
Yo, dog. It's Mrs. Klein.
And Mr. Creighton. And we are here with your next podcast, Impact of Exploration. In this podcast, you guys will learn about the results of European exploration in the Americas and beyond. As always, you guys are going to have a podcast quiz coming up pretty soon. The terms and names you guys need to know: Columbian exchange, triangular trade, capitalism, and mercantilism. And as always, when you hear this sound, it means you just heard a vocabulary term.
All right, you guys, we have a main idea and then a big idea. All right, the main idea for this podcast is the desire to control trade encouraged Europeans to explore the world. And the big idea is there are winners and losers in global exchanges. All right, the first section is entitled The Exchange of Goods and Ideas. We're back to our old history book. If you want to follow along, you can find this information on pages 521 through 523. All right, European exploration resulted in the setup of trade links throughout the world. These trade links increased the exchange of ideas and goods.
The Columbian exchange was the movement of living things, people, plants, animals, and diseases between the hemispheres. You guys have already looked at this with the map, so hopefully you guys have a good idea about that. The exchange began after Columbus's voyages to the Americas.
Europeans brought domestic animals such as horses. In addition, they brought diseases such as smallpox to the Americas. Native Americans had no resistance to these diseases, and as a result, the diseases killed about 20 million Native Americans. The links among the continents created by the Columbian exchange resulted in new international trade patterns. You guys, when they say Native Americans, it's important for you to realize it's not just people who were here in the United States. When we're talking about the Americas, we're talking about Native Americans. We're talking about people who lived in Mexico and down into South America as well.
Spanish colonies in Mexico and South America shipped silver from the Americas to Europe and then on to China. In return, such goods as silks, porcelain, and spices went back to Europe.
A different kind of trade developed between the Americas, Europe, and Africa. Sugarcane, which grew well in the West Indies, was shipped to Europe. Slaves from Africa provided the labor needed to produce sugarcane. Cheap manufactured goods from Europe paid for enslaved Africans. This triangular trade across the Atlantic went on for more than 300 years. Horribly shameful situation for sure.
There's actually so many slaves that went to Brazil that any Brazilian today you can track back and they have some lineage from the slave trade.
Wow.
Culture was also exchanged among continents. The Spanish and Portuguese converted many Native Americans to the Roman Catholic faith. In addition, Europeans often accepted cultural practices from other lands. For example, coffee from Arabia became a popular drink throughout Europe. The question you guys should be able to answer right now: how did the Columbian exchange affect world trade patterns?
All right, moving on to the next section, rivalry for colonies. Remember, you guys, there's this rivalry originally that existed between Spain and Portugal, and then it opens up when other European countries get involved. All right, be thinking about this question: which European countries competed for colonies? As world trade increased, European nations competed for colonies overseas. Portugal set up trading posts in Africa, India, and East Asia. It also gained control of Brazil in South America. Spain focused on its silver and gold mining colonies in Peru and Mexico, which brought much wealth to the Spanish.
There's a reason why Brazil, they speak Portuguese as opposed to Spanish.
Yep. Thank you to the Treaty of Tordesillas that moved the line to the west so that the Portuguese could take over Brazil.
Yep. The Dutch set up a North American colony called New Netherland, but most Dutch colonies were in the East Indies. During the 1600s, the French claimed lands that stretched from Canada down the Mississippi River to the Caribbean. In 1607, English settlers founded Jamestown in Virginia. English pilgrims settled in Massachusetts in 1620. The Pilgrims came to North America to escape religious persecution in England. The English also set up outposts in the Caribbean and India.
English sailors attacked Spanish ships bringing gold from the Americas. This angered King Philip II of Spain. England also supported Protestant subjects who had rebelled against Catholic Spain. And in 1588, Philip sent a huge naval force against England. This force was called the Spanish Armada.
The English Navy defeated the Spanish Armada, but Spain still received great wealth from its gold and silver mines in the Americas. Because of this, Spain continued to be a leading European power. The question you guys should be able to answer right now: What countries had a strong presence in the Americas?
All right, last section, and this one is Europe's economy changes. And here's a question for your consideration. How did the events in the Age of Exploration lead to the development of modern capitalism? The growth of trade and new wealth from the colonies had a major impact on Europe. One of these developments was the growth of capitalism, an economic system based on private ownership of economic resources and the use of those resources to make a profit. Merchants who invested in successful colonization and trade ventures made enormous profits. Often, they invested this newly gained wealth in business ventures. Some wealthy investors funded industrial ventures. The chief method of manufacturing at this time was the cottage industry. In this systems, merchants provided families with the raw materials to make a product. And they did it there, you guys, it's called a cottage industry because they did it in their homes. There weren't factories or anything like that at this particular time. So they say that at first the merchants provided families with raw materials to make a product, and they did that at their house. The merchants then took the finished products to the cities to sell.
Many European nations adopted a new trade policy called mercantilism. This policy said that a country's power depended on its wealth. A nation could gain wealth in two ways. First, it could find large deposits of gold and silver. Second, it could obtain gold and silver through selling more goods than it bought.
Some colonies provided the home country with a source of gold and silver. In addition, colonies provided the raw materials to make manufactured goods. Colonies also served as a ready market for these manufactured goods.
By the late 1700s, some people felt that governments played too great a role in the economy. Economists such as Adam Smith argued that the economy should be free of this government interference. Smith's ideas provided the model for the modern U.S. economic system. Question you guys should be able to answer right now. What economic developments took place in Europe after the Age of Exploration?
All right, you guys, just a reminder, we've got those vocabulary terms you're going to want to be familiar with. One more time, they are Columbian exchange, triangular trade, capitalism, and mercantilism. Okay, love you. Bye.